Welcome to Reddit Realms. Escape the daily grind and join us by our digital fireplace for Reddit's wildest stories. Today we're reading R.O.'s True Off My Chest stories. To our new listeners, I share fresh Reddit stories daily to help you relax, clear your mind, or keep you company while you study. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what was your favorite story from today's video. Now, grab a warm drink, get comfy, and let's get lost in today's tales. My family thinks my brother drowned 10 years ago. He calls me every year on my birthday. Throwaway because my mum lurks. 10 summers ago, my brother drowned. That's the word on the stone at St. Mary's, and the word my family has repeated so many times it turned into cement. He was 20. We'd taken the stupid inflatable kayaks to the river after dinner like we always did. He paddled ahead, I lagged behind because gnats love me, and by the time I rounded the bend, his kayak was upside down, tangled in reeds. We found the kayak. We never found him. Everyone knows the next part. Search teams, dogs, floodlights breaking up the dark water into squares. I sat on the bank wrapped in a towel that smelled like our house and cigarettes and thought, he'll walk out. He always does. He didn't. 3 months later on my birthday, I got a phone call from a Wyoming number. "Happy birthday, Mouse," he said. He called me that because I used to chew the hoodie strings when I was little. My brother is alive. He didn't drown. He ran. He wouldn't give me details that first year. He cried. I cried. I was 23 and shaking in my apartment's bathroom with the water running so my roommate wouldn't hear, whispering, "You have to come home. Mum can't breathe without you." He said, "If I come back, I don't get to stay. And neither do you." The way he said it, quiet but flat, made my stomach flip like I was the one in the river. Every year since, he calls on my birthday, and only on my birthday. Always a random number. Sometimes a postcard shows up with a picture of nothing places, a motel sign, a grain elevator, a mountain that looks like every other mountain if you haven't stood on it. On the back, "Saw a guy with your haircut," or "Kid here laughs like a kettle," or "Don't let dad sell the blue guitar." That last one felt like a punch. I built a small, secret life around those calls. I move apartments, I change jobs, but I keep the same phone number like it's an altar. I never pick up weird numbers except on that day. I've learned to be gentle with the people who say closure. I learned to be an expert at crying in showers. I married someone who believes my brother is dead because I never told him otherwise. I had to decide in a single horrible minute, on our third date when he asked if I had siblings, between the truth and a truth-shaped thing I could live with. I picked the thing. My dad's sick now. Stage of 4. He asks for my brother when he's loopy on meds because that's what pain does. It strips away the present and leaves you in whatever year you loved best. He keeps repeating. I hear him in the hallway. I bring him water and hold his shoulder and the bile rises like I'm going to choke on it. 2 weeks ago, he looked right at me and said, "Clear as glass. You would tell me if he were alive." Like he knew. Like I have liar tattooed on the backs of my eyelids. I said, "He isn't, Dad. I can't sleep. I see the kayak. I see the reeds. I see my call log with 12 entries, 1 per year. Little gravestones with balloons next to them. I see my mum folding my brother's shirts and putting them in a plastic bin because grief is just laundry in slow motion." This morning, I broke my own rules. I called the last Wyoming number back. A man answered who wasn't my brother and said, "You shouldn't call here again." Then he hung up. I'm writing this because I can feel something cracking. If I tell my mum the truth, I blow a hole in whatever fragile raft she built to float on. If I don't, my dad dies without knowing his son is breathing somewhere he'll never see. And if I try to find him, I might bring whatever made him run to our front porch. I don't want advice. I just needed to put this somewhere that isn't the inside of my throat. Update. 3 days later. I told my husband. He stared at me for a long time and then asked to see the postcards. I'd kept them in an old shoebox under a pile of tax returns. He went through them like they were evidence, which I guess they are. On 2 of them, the stamp was from the same tiny town in Idaho. He said, "If he's calling every year, he's on some schedule. People who run still need habits." We didn't play detective. We drove to my parents' house and I told my mum, which was the worst night of my life. She didn't scream. She did something worse. She sat very still and smoothed her hands on her knees and asked me what his voice sounds like now. I told her, older, careful. like he's always measuring the room. My dad had a good day. He was awake. My mom looked at me. I looked at my dad. I said, "He's alive." My dad exhaled like air had been sitting in his chest for 10 years. He nodded once. He did not ask questions. He put his hand on the blanket like he was patting the head of a dog he loved. Later he said, "Tell him it's okay. Tell him I was angry, and then I wasn't." I don't know how to tell him anything. I didn't summon my brother like a genie, but tonight an unknown number called while I was washing a mug. I answered with wet hands. He said, "You can't call back, Mouse." I said, "Dad's dying." Silence. Then a sound like he'd swallowed a stone. He said he couldn't come. He said, "There are 2 men who would rather I was a ghost." He said he was sorry. He was sorry. He was sorry. And it sounded like the word had been living in his mouth for years and had grown teeth. He asked me to play the blue guitar for Dad, even though I can only do 3 chords. He asked me to tell Mom the post-it note under the sugar canister isn't about her. I have no idea what that means. I told him I loved him. He said, "Tell him I hear him in the hallway too." Then the line clicked dead. I don't think this gets better, but it's out of my chest now. And my dad smiled for the first time in months when I told him about the hallway. That has to be enough, even if it isn't. Sometimes we hide the worst truths in plain sight, under a stamp, inside a song, at the bottom of a junk drawer. Our next confession started with a lost and found box at a train station and a camera full of strangers, and one face the OP never expected to see. I worked the lost and found at a train station. A camera I inventoried last winter might have solved a missing person case, and I kept my mouth shut. I'm 26, and I work the morning shift at a mid-sized city train station. It's a lot of coffee, a lot of track 4, and a lot of lost things. People set down their whole lives and then sprint for a platform, and I become the dragon sitting on the hoard. Neck pillows, a single roller skate, a bag labeled "Do Not Touch." I touched it, it was homemade fudge, and dozens of digital cameras that nobody remembers they still own. There's a procedure. We log the item, we wait 90 days, we auction it. 90 days is enough time to either come back for your memories or admit you don't want them anymore. Last December, a security guard handed me a Canon wrapped in a scarf. "Car 3 under the seat," he said. "No bag, no ID." I charged it because sometimes people leave a selfie on the first slide and you can post a "found" sign with their face. Creepy, yes. Effective, also yes. The first photo was of a Christmas market, blurry lights and mittens. The second was a dog wearing a sweater that said beans. The third made my mouth go dry. It was a woman in a grocery store aisle, not posed. Someone had taken it from the end of the aisle, like a sniper but with produce. She was in a grey hoodie, hair tucked in a cap. And I knew her. We all knew her. She'd been on the news for a year. Missing jogger, last seen near the river. Boyfriend cleared, but not really in the court of public opinion. There had been vigils, daisies tied to light poles, podcasts, and there she was, staring down at a grocery list like she was picking out pasta. I told myself it wasn't her. I told myself light plays tricks. I clicked forward. The next photo was a reflection shot, a window with the photographer's blurry outline, and behind them the same woman pushing a cart. Date stamp, 2 months after the disappearance. Location data, none. Thanks, uncle who takes photos like it's 2008. I closed the camera and put it in the box, and I didn't report it. I didn't report it because I am a coward in an extremely specific flavor. My older brother had been arrested the year prior for something he didn't do, and he sat in county for 3 days because a neighbor saw someone like him. He still jumps when he hears a knock. Watching the cops shrug and tell him we're just following up rewired me. I stopped trusting institutions to handle people without breaking them. So I told myself, this could ruin someone's life if I'm wrong. This could start a fire I can't put out. This isn't my job. I put the Canon in bin C, shelf 2, with the note Canon Market Picks, Beans Dog. On New Year's Day, the woman's case had an anniversary. The news looped her smiling graduation photo. I watched in the break room with a paper cup of soup, and that camera might as well have been vibrating behind me. On day 89, a man came in to claim a phone charger. I watched him sign the form with a handwriting so shaky, It looked like the paper was knee-deep in water. I thought about the Canon's owner, whoever they were, and the idea of them showing up an hour too late and me handing their camera to a guy with a trucker hat who likes to buy mystery boxes on weekends. I pulled the Canon out and put it under the counter. I told myself I'd wait one more week. Nobody came. I took it home like a thief. I've looked at those photos maybe 30 times since. I zoom. I compare. I scroll forums where people swear they've seen her in 3 different states on the same day. I take notes like a cop on TV and then shred them because I'm not a cop and I'm not on TV. Today I walked past a flyer that was so faded, the missing looked like MESSING. Someone had taped a fresh daisy to it. I thought about going to the police with a memory card and asking them to just look. Then I thought about 100 online sleuths picking apart the aisle number and the brand of frozen pizza and doxing a random woman who looks like someone else. I think I was wrong not to report it. I think I was right too. And I hate that there's no version of events where I'm a clean person with clean hands. I've decided to mail the memory card to her sister, the one who did the interview on the steps of the courthouse and didn't cry even when the reporters were basically trying to shake tears out of her. I found a P.O. box on a fundraiser page. I'm going to include a letter that says, "This might be nothing, please decide." It feels like a cop-out because it is, but it also feels like letting the right person carry the weight. I can already hear the replies. "You should have gone to the police." "You're probably right. I just wanted to put this somewhere so when I'm awake at 3 a.m., I can tell myself I told someone. Even if that someone is strangers who will call me an idiot with better reasons than I have for anything I do." Update. 2 weeks later. I mailed the card. I didn't include my name, just the station address. Today I got a letter back. Same P.O. box. It was 1 sentence on a yellow sticky note. "I know that hoodie." No signature, nothing else. I sat in my kitchen with my coat still on and my keys in my hand and felt relief and dread shake hands in my ribcage. I don't know if "I know that hoodie" means it's her or it's not, or thank you anyway. I don't know if I helped or if the worst thing I did was wait. I'm writing this to trap the moment before I know, in case knowing isn't a piece I get to have. If there's a next step for me, it's to put the rest of the cameras on the shelf where they belong, where the process can take them. I'm not built to be the person who decides things like this. I'm just the guy who labels the bins and writes Beansdog, and, on a good day, gets someone their scarf back. Sometimes confessions pull people together. Sometimes they just make the room quiet in a way that never unquiets. Next time, we're wading into a secret that lived behind a login screen, a shared Netflix account that wasn't so shared, and what spilled out when the "who's watching" in profile winked back with someone who shouldn't have the password at all. My husband disappeared for 3 days. When he came back, he swore he'd been home the whole time. I don't even know where to start, so I'm just going to say it straight. My husband, 34M, vanished for 3 days last month. No call, no texts, no one saw him. Then, on the 4th morning, he walked into the kitchen like he'd just stepped out for coffee. We've been married 6 years. He's not the kind of man who forgets to come home. He's painfully routine-oriented. Every night at 10:30, he brushes his teeth, takes the dog out, and sets the coffee pot for the morning. The kind of man who has an Excel sheet for grocery prices. So when he didn't come home after work on a Wednesday, I panicked. By midnight, I called every hospital in a 50-mile radius. By morning, the police filed a missing person report. His car was gone. His phone went straight to voicemail. His boss said he never clocked out that day. The police were kind at first, then cautious, then skeptical. Maybe he needed space, one said. Marital stress? We'd had no fight. Nothing. Day 3, I started planning his memorial. Not officially, but in my head. Because there's only so long you can look at an empty driveway before your brain starts writing obituaries, just to stay busy. Then Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen and there he was, sitting at the table, drinking coffee, reading the paper. Wearing the same clothes he'd worn to work Wednesday. The same shirt, the same watch. The only difference was that his shoes were wet. I froze. He looked up and said, "Morning, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I said, "Where the hell have you been?" He frowned like I'd asked him the square root of Tuesday. "What do you mean, I've been here?" No, you haven't. You've been missing. He laughed. Babe, I was asleep. Asleep for 3 days? He put his mug down and looked genuinely confused. It's Thursday. I just got home from work. I showed him the date on my phone. His face went pale, but not surprised. More like recalculating. He didn't argue. He didn't insist I was wrong. He just said, "That doesn't make sense," and went upstairs to shower. I followed. His car was in the driveway, parked at an angle I'd never seen him park before. The seat was pushed back like someone taller had driven it. The gas tank was full. He came out of the shower whistling. When I asked again where he'd been, he looked at me with this blank expression, like he was reading a script and had lost his line. He said, "I was home. I made dinner Wednesday." Don't you remember? We didn't eat dinner Wednesday. I was at the police station filing the report. Over the next few days, he acted totally normal, like nothing happened. Went to work, texted me memes, kissed me goodnight. But I'd catch him standing in the hallway, staring at the wall like he was listening for something. The dog barks at him now, not in a growly way, just unsure. I thought maybe he was covering up an affair. Maybe he'd gone on a bender. Maybe he'd had some kind of breakdown and lost time. But none of that fits. There were no transactions on his card, no tolls, no GPS history. His Fitbit stopped tracking steps at 6:42 p.m. that Wednesday and didn't start again until 8:03 a.m. Saturday when he was in the kitchen. I checked his body for injuries, no bruises, no scratches, but he smelled faintly of smoke, like a campfire or burning plastic. He's sleeping deeper now. I can't wake him sometimes. His pulse slows to something that doesn't feel human, and once I swear I heard him whisper something while he slept, like he was talking to someone. Just one word, over and over. Again. I've stopped asking questions. I think he believes what he's saying, that he never left. But every time I look at him, I feel like I'm looking at a perfect copy. He started wearing a ring I've never seen before. On the inside, there's a word engraved that I can't read. It's worn smooth, like it's been there for years. I don't know who to tell this to. I don't know if I'm losing my mind. I just know that when he hugs me now, he smells like someone else's life. Update. A week later. Last night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of the front door opening. I grabbed my phone and went to check, and he was standing outside barefoot, staring at the street. He didn't react when I called his name. I touched his shoulder and he jumped like he didn't recognize me. He said, "I thought it was the other house." Then he went back to bed and fell asleep instantly. This morning, I checked the security footage from our doorbell camera. There's a 3-hour gap from 11:57 p.m. to 3:01 a.m. When it comes back, he's standing there, outside, facing the camera. The timestamp says 2:16 a.m. He isn't moving, just staring. Eyes wide open. He was right, it looked like he'd come home from somewhere else. Somewhere that looked just like ours, but wasn't. I'm saving this post in case something happens. If he disappears again, I'm not calling the police this time. I'm checking the woods, because sometimes, late at night, I swear I can see another porch light flickering between the trees. Same distance, same color, like our house reflected in water that isn't there. Some absences leave a hole. Others come back wearing a familiar face. Our next story starts with a phone that rang from the future and a voicemail that shouldn't exist. I found a hidden camera in my bedroom, and I'm terrified it's someone I know. I, 27F, rent a small apartment in a decent part of town. It's nothing fancy, 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, leaky faucet, but it's mine. I work long hours at a vet clinic, and most days I come home dead tired, microwave dinner, watch something mindless, and crash. It's been that way for almost 2 years. Safe, quiet, normal, until 2 weeks ago. I'd lost my phone charger, as usual, and went digging behind my nightstand. My phone flashlight caught something metallic wedged between the socket and the wall. A tiny black circle. At first I thought it was a screw. Then I realized it had a faint red reflection like a camera lens. I froze. I don't know how long I crouched there just staring at it, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Finally, I took a photo with flash. When I zoomed in, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a screw, it was a pinhole lens. I yanked the nightstand away from the wall, hands shaking. The lens was embedded in what looked like a wall charger, a small black cube with a USB port, the kind that doubles as a spy camera. My hands were slick with sweat. I pulled it out, unplugged it, and set it on my bed like it was going to explode. My first thought was maintenance. They'd been in my apartment last month to fix the heater, but why would they put it behind the nightstand? I tore through the rest of the apartment, vents, smoke detectors, behind picture frames, nothing else, just that one device. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound made my skin crawl. I kept thinking, how long has that been there? The next morning, I took it to a friend of mine who's into tech. He plugged it into his laptop and immediately looked wrong, like he didn't want to tell me something. He said quietly, "This thing's been recording to a micro SD card. It's motion activated." He popped the card out and started scrolling through the videos. There were hundreds. The earliest timestamp was from 5 months ago. At first, it was just clips of the empty room, me leaving for work, my cat jumping on the bed. Then there was one where I walked out of the shower in a towel. I nearly threw up. Then he paused one clip, leaned in and said, who's that?" I looked. The video showed my bed at night. I was asleep, and there was someone standing in the corner of the room, watching me. The figure was tall, blurry, motionless. The clip lasted 12 seconds before the motion sensor shut off. The next video started 20 minutes later, and the figure was gone. My friend and I went to the police. They took the camera, filed a report, said they'd follow up. They didn't. 2 days later, when I called for an update, they told me the device was under review and that it would take time to trace where it was bought. That night I stayed at a hotel. I didn't go back until I could change the locks, install my own cameras, and sleep with a bat next to the bed. I've been trying to think of who could have done it. Maintenance is my top suspect, but they're all older guys, quiet, barely speak English. My landlord? He's sleazy, but I've never seen him in my unit. Friends? No one has a key. Then yesterday, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, I swear my blood went cold. It was breathing, just slow, deliberate breathing. Then a voice, distorted, low. "You shouldn't have looked." I reported it to the police again. They said, "Could be a prank call." I don't think it's a prank, because this morning when I left for work, I noticed something small and silver tucked under my doormat. A single micro SD card. I haven't plugged it in. I can't. It's sitting in a Ziploc bag on my kitchen counter. I called my friend again and asked him to check it for me tonight. I'm scared of what I'll see, but I'm more scared of who I'll see, because there's a chance that person in the video isn't some stranger. I keep thinking about the maintenance guy who always lingers too long when I sign forms, or the neighbor who waved at me from his balcony the morning after I found the camera and said, "Sleep okay last night?" And then I think about the voice. "You shouldn't have looked." I'm leaving the apartment tomorrow. I don't care about the lease or the deposit. I just want out. I can't shake the feeling that whoever's behind this doesn't want me to leave, or that I've already been watched for so long, it won't even matter. Update, 3 days later. I didn't plug in the SD card, my friend did. There were only 2 videos on it, both time-stamped the night after I found the first camera. The first video showed my bed, empty. The second showed the doorway, from inside the apartment. Someone recorded me sleeping at the hotel. There's a clip of me lying on my side, the blue light from the TV flickering. The angle is wrong, it's from the nightstand, the one next to the bed in the hotel room. I called the police again. They told me to stop touching evidence and to relax until detectives reach out. I'm not relaxing. I've changed hotels twice. My friend's helping me get a new phone and number. I keep catching glimpses of someone following me. Not close, not obvious, but there. A figure in a hoodie, black car idling across the street too long. Every time I blink, I think I see a lens flash. I'm writing this because I don't know how long I'll feel safe enough to keep posting updates. I've saved copies of everything and sent them to 2 people. If anything happens to me, they'll go to the police and the news. Whoever you are, if you're reading this, I've looked, and I'm not closing my eyes again. Some secrets hide in shadows, others hide in plain sight, staring back through a reflection. Our next story begins when a woman sold her old laptop online and started getting emails from herself. My mum confessed to a murder she says never happened, but there's evidence it did. I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm losing my mind. I, 31M, am an only child, and my mom has always been complicated. Not abusive, not cruel, just tightly wound in ways I never understood. She used to wake up at 4 a.m. to scrub floors that were already clean, label leftovers with the exact minute they were cooked, and whisper to herself in the pantry when she thought I couldn't hear. My dad left when I was 6. She told me he'd walked away for good. 3 weeks ago, she called me out of nowhere. We talk maybe once every few months, mostly check-ins about her health or my work. But that night her voice was flat, like every ounce of energy had leaked out of her. She said, "I need to tell you something before I forget it." She's 63, healthy as far as I know, but she's been forgetful lately, so I assumed it was another "I left the oven on again" type call. I said, "What's going on?" She said, "When you were little, something bad happened, but it's over now. I fixed it." I felt my stomach drop. I asked, "What do you mean, fixed it?" She said, "He's gone. I made sure." At first, I thought she was talking about my dad. My pulse went cold. I asked her what she meant by gone. She said in this calm, detached way, "I buried him behind the house, but it's fine. No one ever found him. I checked." I laughed, out of disbelief, not amusement. Ian said, "Mom, that's not funny." She didn't laugh. She said, "I'm not joking, sweetheart. I'm just tired of keeping it secret." The next 20 minutes were the strangest of my life. She told me she couldn't stand watching him hurt us anymore. That one night after a fight, she took care of it while I was asleep. She said she wrapped him in a tarp, dragged him out to the garden, and dug a hole behind the azaleas. She even said, "You used to play over him. You thought you were planting flowers." I asked her why she was telling me this now, and she said, "Because my head's been noisy again. I keep hearing him walking around." I told her to stop, that she was scaring me. She apologized, said maybe it was just her medication, and hung up. I sat there for hours trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. My mom isn't violent. She's anxious, perfectionist, obsessive, but she's never been scary. I thought maybe she was having a psychotic break or confusing dreams with reality, but something about the way she said it, factual, rehearsed, it didn't sound delusional. It sounded remembered. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I called her. No answer. I called again that afternoon. Still nothing. By the third day, I drove to her house. It's about 2 hours from me. An old place in the woods she's lived in since I was born. When I got there, everything looked normal. Lights on, TV playing, door unlocked. But she wasn't there. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, next to an open jar of jam and a half-made sandwich. Her purse was hanging by the door. I called the police, filed a missing person report, and waited. 2 days later, she called me from an unknown number. Her voice was calm, almost cheerful. "I'm fine," she said. "Just needed some quiet. Don't come looking." I begged her to tell me where she was. She said, "You wouldn't understand, but it's all clean now." Then she hung up. When the police followed up, they found nothing unusual. No signs of struggle, no blood, no vehicle missing. Just one odd thing. The ground behind the azalea bushes in her backyard looked freshly disturbed. I told the officer about what my mom said on the phone. About the body, the tarp, the azaleas. He raised an eyebrow but said they'd bring in a cadaver dog, just to be safe. I didn't expect them to find anything, but they did. Not a body, at least not right away. What they found was a small patch of tarp, shredded by time, and what appeared to be a human bone fragment. It was sent to the state lab for testing. The detective told me not to jump to conclusions, but I could see in his eyes that this wasn't nothing. Since then, I've been living in a fog. The police asked me for old photos of my dad, employment records, anything that might help. That's when I realized I don't actually have much proof he ever existed after I turned 6. No social media, obviously it was the 90s. No tax records under his name past 1999. No family photos past that same year. Mum always said he left for a fresh start, but every time I'd asked where he went, she gave a different answer. California, Maine, overseas, back to his people. I even found an old notebook of hers while the police were searching. Inside were pages of neat grocery lists, cleaning schedules, and then one entry in the middle that made my stomach twist. March 9th, ground too soft, must wait. Don't let him move. The date? March 9th, 2000. The same week my dad supposedly left us. Now, the police want me to provide a DNA sample to compare with the bone fragment. They said it's routine procedure, but I can tell they're testing a theory, and I can't stop wondering if I already know the answer, because last night I got a voicemail from my mum's number. Static for a few seconds, then her voice, tired, trembling, whispering, "It's deeper than they think. Don't let them dig under the azaleas again." Then it cuts off. The number's disconnected now. I told the police about the voicemail, but they said the number wasn't traceable. They think it's an old recording, maybe automated spam mixed with coincidence. But I know my mum's voice. It wasn't old, it was now. I haven't told anyone else, not even my girlfriend. I don't know how to explain that my mother might have killed my father 25 years ago, buried him behind the house, then disappeared right as the police started digging him up. And here's the part that's making me lose sleep. Last night I dreamt I was back at that house, sitting in the backyard with my mom. She was drinking tea. She said, "It wasn't him I buried." I woke up to an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was, "Stop digging." No text in the body, just an attachment, a photo of my mom standing in front of the azaleas, smiling. The timestamp, yesterday. Update, 4 days later. The lab results came back. The bone fragment was human, male, approximate age between 30 and 40. They're running DNA now. The detective called me in for questioning again. Nothing aggressive, just helping them fill in blanks. He asked what I remembered about my dad's last day. I told him bits and pieces, an argument, the sound of glass breaking, my mum telling me to go upstairs. Then she came up half an hour later and said, "Daddy went on a trip." He nodded slowly, took notes, and said they'd keep me updated. That night, I couldn't stop replaying something my mum said on the phone before she vanished. I fixed it. He's gone. But what if she didn't mean Dad? There was always something weird about that house. She never let me play in the basement. She always kept it locked, said there were rats. I never questioned it, but now I keep thinking, if there was something she buried behind the azaleas, what was she hiding beneath? Today I drove back out there. The police tape is gone, the backyard quiet. I stood there staring at the flowers, half dead now, their roots torn up from the digging, and then I noticed something else. Behind the shed, in the mud, fresh footprints, smaller than mine, barefoot, leading toward the woods. The strangest part, next to one of the prints was a single item half buried in dirt, a gold wedding ring. Inscribed inside, M+R, always. My dad's name was Robert. My mum's name is Margaret. I took it to the police station, but the detective wasn't there. The desk officer said he'd leave it in the evidence locker. He looked distracted, like he'd heard this story before. I came home an hour ago. My phone just buzzed. Another email, same sender. No subject this time, no body, just one photo again. My mum's living room, the TV's on, showing a paused image from the local news, and on the screen, a shot of me, standing in her backyard earlier today. Sometimes the truth doesn't stay buried. It waits for someone to dig deep enough to meet it halfway. Our next story begins with a woman who inherited a storage unit from her late uncle and found something inside that should have been left locked forever.